Disclaimer: all views expressed on What Makes Us Fire are solely those of the person or persons giving them. What Makes Us Fire does not represent or claim to represent any particular city or fire department, and therefore make the claim that all views and standpoints are affiliated with What Makes Us Fire and with What Makes Us Fire only. Any mention of certain fire departments or cities within the interviews are solely for informational and opinion based dialogue. In short, if you have a problem with what's published, just say something about it and don't be a Richard. What is up, What Makes Us Fire family? Thank you for joining us on this episode of What Makes Us Fire. Today, I have a pretty special guest, kind of a little bit different from what we've had in the past. His name is Cameron. You can better known as the Dirt Voyeur on Instagram. He is a gentleman that I found on Instagram that creates art. He creates art in very many different types of ways: music, comedy, and visual art on the computer. The reason why I have him on this show is because he made a difference in my life, and that his art helped me feel and come back down to reality. He created something that I found interesting, and it helped me come back down to earth and realize that there are things in this world that are worth appreciating. And because of that, I invited him on the show to kind of get his background and let him know what he does for people like me, and I'm sure for other civil servants out there. Cameron's a little bit of a crazy dude. So I want to warn you that our conversation jumps around quite a bit. It's our first dual podcast here on What Makes Us Fire, in that he was recording for his show as well, Junkhead Pod. So go listen to his podcast. He might have made some different edits and made it sound better or worse or the same. I have no idea. And a heads up, the end, it's going to be something you want to listen to. He closes out his show in a very special way that I think you all are going to really enjoy. Made me laugh my ass off. What Makes Us Fire family? Please help me welcome Cameron, the Dirt Voyeur.
Somebody from like a different world than his, but they find common ground and just start like riffing, and they almost build like kind of a friendship on the pod, and it's like really kind of neat to hear.
It is really cool, especially when he has somebody that he hasn't really talked to before, like basically like us. And then you hear and feel that relationship growing as the episode moves. And you're like, wow, like the respect that starts getting built between these two people that have probably never talked before. And now these commonalities and all that other stuff is just, it's flowing. It's like an ebb and flow of this relationship, and you're hearing it grow. And while you're hearing it grow, you're learning some pretty badass stuff. His concept works really, really well. And I guess that's what I was miming myself after, is his type of format.
For sure.
I see that we were having such good conversation. I didn't want to lose any of it, so I just hit the record button. So
you're good, man. You're good.
Yeah. So if you want to start recording for yours, and then however you do your intro, we can do each other's intro for each other.
Yeah.
To start off, Cameron, man, thank you so much for coming on to What Makes Us Fire podcast. For everybody that doesn't know, we are actually doing a dual recording session right now. Cameron from Junkhead Podcast, the Dirt Voyeur, Junkhead Podcast, correct? I got that right?
Yes. Well, Junkhead Pod, but you can find us on Apple Pod, Spotify.
Junkhead Pod, also known as the Dirt Voyeur on Instagram. It's how I met this gentleman, this badass dude. Thank you for coming on the show, man. I appreciate it wholeheartedly. And if you want to go ahead and introduce me now, you can go ahead, and I will say thank you for having me on your show.
Alrighty. And thank you, Fire Family. I'm excited to be here. Super stoked to be here. But yeah, live on Junkhead, dual cast. This is a new one, folks. We've never done anything like this. Like we had a solo cast recently. Like we had that crazy lady who was telling us about medicinal cocaine. I mean, she was just all over the place. This podcast goes nuts.
Believe it or
But
not, cocaine is still used as a medicinal in some
oh,
states.
bro, for sure. Cause I like went on a deep dive. I found this like lovely little, oh, by the way, we've got Josh from where are you from, Josh?
I'm from Southeast Texas, the Houston area. I'm a firefighter down here.
Hell yeah.
And
Dude, I love Texas.
yeah, I am the host of the podcast, What Makes Us Fire. I appreciate you having me on Junkhead Pod, man. Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate it.
Hell yeah. You want to just dive straight into some because I actually did find out a fun little fact about this, the
What'd you find
medicinal
out?
cocaine.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
So I was because she started talking about it. This whole episode was crazy. She actually got into a car accident and then started doing this as like a way to like she didn't like opiates because it keeps you like really drowsy and tired. So she's
Yeah.
like, I need something that, heals the pain and gives me some speed to do stuff. So lo and behold, but I started doing research on it and I found out that, like you said, it's a very popular idea and it's been around for a very long time. As a matter of fact, it went back to World War One, where parents of soldiers who went over into the war, they would send them like little like care packages,
Yep.
and they would like be filled with like syrettes of like heroin and cocaine and all different types of shit.
Morphine. Morphine was a big one. Morphine was a
Oh
huge one.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
laudanum too.
Yep. That was a huge one. Yeah, no. Actually, cocaine is still used in some states as a pre-hospital treatment, believe it or not. Instead
Really?
of,
What
yeah,
what
it's
for?
for cardiac emergencies and stuff like that. Gives a little jolt to the system if they have like low heart rates, stuff like that. So I don't recommend it. However, and that medicinal cocaine is not what you're getting on the streets. So don't think that what you get on the streets is going to do anything like what this would do for you. But instead of using like epinephrine or something like that to kind of give the heart a jolt, they've been using cocaine. It's rarely used, but it is still out there in some states, and some states still do use it and allow it, mostly in the hospital setting, but some in the pre-hospital setting, i.e., out in the field, ambulances and stuff like that. Not here in
See,
Texas. Not here in
I,
Texas.
I just got the image in my head of just kind of like blue collar, like shock paddle treatment where it's like, man, we can't get a charge. Well, do you got that blast in the bag? I guess so. We'll see if this works. Yeah, he's fine. He cleaned the entire ambulance in 30 minutes.
Yeah, we got rid of his low heart rate and he cleaned. Hell yeah. Yeah. Nah, but yeah, that's funny that you brought that up because I literally just had that conversation just a couple of shifts ago. We had a few guys in the truck while we were driving around and we were having that conversation. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have known that some states are still using cocaine as a medicinal use for heart emergencies.
The
Excuse
medical
me.
world utterly fascinates me. Like I've never had any like I have huge issues with like gore and stuff like that, so I don't think I could ever really handle that kind of stuff. But I mean
Mm-hmm.
it does fascinate me what we've learned about the body. And like a cheaper example is like when like you see people like clean cuts with like really like Everclear, like a really high concentrate alcohol or something like that. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like all these like kind of I don't want to say folk remedies, but like just random things that you can do to like I guess like take care of the body in extreme situations. I did it one time in a creek. I was like camping and like stepped on like a nail in like the creek, and they were like worried about me like getting something infected. So like I just like wrapped I like basically like poured like we had like some like God, it was like it's like really high concentrate like vodka, and we just like poured that on the wound and then like wrapped it up and then like just went back into town so we could get checked out until then. But it seemed to do all right. The doctor was pretty impressed. He was like, not bad, guys.
Yeah. Well, obviously, that's like kind of one of the last things we want you to do. Soap and water, obviously, is like the first and foremost. But if you have isopropyl alcohol, yeah, do you want to use that to clean your cuts? We don't recommend using peroxide, believe it or not, because that actually kills the cells that are supposed to be there to even heal it. Alcohol as well, but on a
No
on a
way.
on a clean cut, on a brand new cut, you want to clean it out as well as you can. You want to try to refrain from using alcohol because alcohol has a whole bunch of sugars and different stuff in it, and but the alcohol will kill a lot of the stuff you're worried about causing the infection. However, then you got to once you get to the hospital, they're gonna have to clean it again because you just introduced sugars and different other stuff into the wound. But you did clean out any type of germs or viruses that can cause an infection. So it's not wrong. It's just not the best thing to do. So it's
Oh,
not the
for
wrong
sure,
thing
for
to do. It's
sure.
just not the best thing to do. But
No,
you use what you
100%.
got to use at the time. So
Yeah. Well, especially, like I'm sure you've been out camping and stuff, and those little like field remedies that like, you kind of got to do out there. Because I
oh
used to
yeah, all
work
the
in
time.
military surplus, and like, yeah, dude, like just little like field dressings and stuff that you learn from that kind of shit. It's a really like practical skill.
Hell yeah, it is. I recommend anybody doing anything that likes to go in the outdoors do like a wilderness 101 type course before you go out there. Usually just a weekend long, and you can learn a bunch of really helpful stuff. But to kind of switch gears here, Cameron, and I don't
Yeah.
mean to cut you off, but we were we were on
No,
the
go ahead, man.
conversation of
Go ahead.
cocaine before we did the intros, and so we decided to finish that conversation. My guess, I like to let my audience know kind of where my guests come from, where they're located, and stuff like that. Where can What Makes Us Fire Family find you? Obviously I told them on Instagram as Dirt Voyeur, and that's about it. But if you have, do you where you come from, man? Where do you live? Where'd you grow up?
I can give you like a quick sum up of like I mean where I'm at and where I came from if you'd like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Just kind of give the people an idea of where the mind of Dirt Voyeur, where did that originate? Where
Okay,
were you?
okay.
Yeah, where were you
So
raised?
for sure, for sure. So I grew up in a smaller city in Ohio. I was born in a place called Springfield, Ohio. Yes, I was completely 100% sure that the town in The Simpsons was the Springfield that I was like growing up in. Did not realize that until I was like probably like 9 or 10 years old, and then I was like, oh, okay, there's more than one Springfield. So like, it's a very very quintessential Midwestern kind of smaller city. It's got, you know, it's very like kind of a mix of like rural areas that surround it, and then it's kind of got like a nice little hub area of like kind of like a city, if you will. And like most cities in the Midwest, like it was really huge in like the 1920s and 30s, but by now the industrial stuff has kind of left, so it's started to run down, and it started to, they call it the Rust Belt for a reason.
Right.
So I lived there until I was 12, and then I moved out of that into like a small town, like 5,000 people maybe. I went to high school with like a graduating class of like 180 people. I mean, it was very much everything that you would think about like small town living in this country. It was all that, and it was actually kind of neat. Like it like there were things that I didn't like about it, but there's also things that are very very cool about living in a small town and very fun about living in a small town. Like everybody's house that has any amount of like land, like more than like an average backyard, you can just go party there. I mean,
Hell
like
yeah.
you just have a bonfire, you got beers, like everybody's barn is now a party place. Like, God, we drank so much in high school.
We do
But
not condone underage drinking, but if you
we
do
don't,
it,
we don't. Yeah.
but if
If
you
you
do it,
do
we
it, do
don't
it in a,
judge.
yeah, yeah. Well, and like, and to be mad real about it, like in a small town, and at that time before like smartphones and stuff, and all the stuff that we have nowadays. I mean, like it was like those were the options, kind of. I mean, it was slim pickings, really.
Yeah,
So
I think a lot
I
of people nowadays don't really realize how good they have it, especially people that were born early 2000s into now, you know, they're in their late teens, early 20s. They don't realize that between 95 and 2005, very, very little of this technology was out there. Like very
for
little.
sure.
And and finding the entertainment for yourself was going to hang out with friends, parties, drinking, doing stupid shit. Like all the jackass stuff that you see online that's cool nowadays. No, 90s kids are doing that on a day-to-day basis. You know, like we are doing that shit on a day-to-day basis. Somebody just thought to start recording it and put it on a fucking film.
Dude, I was Josh, seriously, I was just talking about this with like an old buddy where like we were bored in high school, so we would just take turns doing tuck and rolls out of each other's cars at varying speeds down like the long backcountry roads. And like nobody thought to film it. Nobody was like, hey, we should like try to sell this. It was just like, yeah, this is
No,
what you do,
it's
man.
just what we did. It was just, there was nothing else to do. Hey, your friend had a pool. I'll jump off of it naked. Why not? I'll be that crazy guy. You know, like
Yeah.
it wasn't what I guess people consider entertainment nowadays. For us, like being involved in it was the entertainment, not just watching it, like actually doing it.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think Bam Margera was actually the first one that actually started the whole Jackass craze and everything else with CKY.
CKY tape.
Yeah,
Yup.
CKY. And he's the one that started that whole realm. And then, of course, they got with the producer and found Johnny Knoxville actually was not the founder of this whole movement. It was actually Bam Margera. Him and CKY actually started that whole movement, and they just needed a
Shout out to
face.
Bam, really.
Yeah, really, really, really. But I mean that whole movement, man. You talking about a '90s kid turning our lifestyle into a business, into an entertainment world. That was him, 110%. Um,
Oh, and I was thinking about this. It's funny, you know, you brought. I mean, we were talking about it, but we brought this up because, like, I mean, that guy ran MTV for and VH1 for a good like 5 to 10 years because not he had like the Jackass show, but then he had like Viva La
Viva La
Bam, and
Bam,
then like
yeah.
yeah, well, and then like the one where he like gets married and like shit like that, and like oh, dude, he's so caked up right now. He's got so much money just like chilling from all that. Like, I can't even imagine, dude.
Well, he did take a pretty huge dive after his friend died. Ryan, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. After Ryan died, it might not be Ryan. I want to say it's Ryan. I feel bad if I got the name wrong, but
No, no, it's Ryan because I remember this. It was the source of the darkest tweet that I've ever seen in my entire life.
mm-hmm.
And like, you can cut this if you want, but like,
No,
it was
I
like a
won't cut anything.
2 or 3. Okay, okay. It's like 2 or 3 days after like the situation went down, and somebody wrote a tweet in like the Jackass how they like set up stunts, and they
Mm-hmm.
wrote it in that style. So it's, hey, I'm Brian O'Neill, and I'm gonna get drunk and drive my car into a tree, and just like left it, and it was like, oh shit,
Now,
dude.
you guys ever heard that whole saying? Is this too soon? That might have been just a little bit too soon. Maybe just a little bit. It
Yeah,
reminds me of
yeah.
that roast that Steve-O was on, and that female comedian said something to the effect of why couldn't it have been you instead of Ryan? And it was just like the whole audience was just like, no, no, that was
Oh, I
bad taste,
remember.
bad taste. Yeah, Steve, the look on his face as soon as she said his name, like you knew that was just like, damn, like ouch. And I
Just
get,
that's a walk the room kind of line almost.
yeah, like and I get the whole trying to deal with traumatic experiences in a humorous way. um I get that, but sometimes your timing has to be right for it to work, right? like timing is almost everything when it comes to that stuff, especially when you start talking about traumatic experiences in somebody's life. Like, if your timing's off on that, you can really fuck somebody up in the head. You can really, really, really cause a huge distortion in their head. And you have no idea you did it. You might have been doing it honestly and just jokingly and not meant to cause any more pain or anguish. But if your timing's off, fuck, like you can drive somebody literally to go insane by doing something like that. So,
Oh yeah.
and everybody's timing is
I
different, so I can't judge, right? But the person that's affected, you you don't want to limit yourself on what you say and feel, but if it's going to affect somebody like that, maybe think about it twice. Maybe. I don't know. I'm very big on not holding back on what you want to say or feel, no matter what the outcome may be. However, I do understand that what you say and feel can and sometimes does have an effect on somebody's psyche and what they perceive it to be. So when she said that joke and I saw the look on Steve-O's face, it was just one of those things that, like, it hit me like, I know exactly what he's feeling right now. And that is not a good feeling. Like, not a
yeah.
good feeling. Not. However, thinking about it now and hearing you say what that tweet was, it's funny as shit now. But it's been years. It's been
Yeah.
years since that happened. Hence my
What's
point, the
that
timing.
what's that that South Park thing where like they figure out that AIDS is now funny because it's been like they find the math for it where it's like it's been 21.6 years since AIDS was
AIDS
big.
was
Now we can laugh.
now
Now
we
we
can
can
laugh
laugh
about
at
it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and it's going to take those people willing to take the risk on the whole timing aspect to make those jokes and do shit like that, right? Somebody's going to have to say or do something to make it funny at some point. And it's going to be those people that are willing to take that risk and leap to make those jokes to find out when that timing is. I would like to consider myself sometimes I'm willing to take that risk. Other times I'm like, I'm not sure if this is too soon or not. So I'm just gonna, if I'm not sure, I'm gonna go ahead and keep quiet. But if
I
I don't
feel it.
care, then I'll say it. But um getting
I
getting
got a
into
quick question. Well,
go
can I
for it.
ask you one more question on that topic?
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, how do you feel? Because speaking of this topic, and it's been like a very big news thing that happened this year. Have you heard about like what happened with Ari Shafir and the Kobe Bryant tweet?
I I I didn't hear a whole lot about it. I did hear something about it, but I didn't like go find out exactly what was said or when it was said. And I remember people were complaining about the quote unquote timing of the tweet
Yeah.
and everything. I remember hearing that being an issue, but I don't remember exactly what was said or the joke that was made.
No, for sure. It's just it's a great example of it because like when you like look back at the tweet now, the tweet is funny. And like in Ari's defense, Ari has done this for every celebrity death.
Mm-hmm.
He's every celebrity death, he's always put like the most offensive tweet out. You know, he did it for Bowie, he did it, you know, for everybody. And he he did the one for Kobe Bryant, and when you look at it now, it is like it's a funny tweet. But at the time, you know, obviously like people freaked out about it and like, you know, which understandable, it was fucking tragic what happened. But it also resulted in him getting doxxed and having to leave like his home because somebody like basically like released where he lived and then like I think released where his parents lived too. So like
Oh,
he had
wow.
to yeah, yeah. So it's like a weird Ari's is like a weird one because like he definitely broke the timing rule, but
Mm-hmm.
then like the audience like almost took it too far in their like retribution, and it's weird. The world, especially comedians, that weird world.
Well, here's the thing, right? In America, we have this thing called your First Amendment right, and that is to say whatever you want to say or how you feel, right?
Damn right.
At any time, at any point, no matter what, you are allowed to say these things as long as it's not a call to action for violence, right? As long as you're not calling an action to violence, that's the only thing that can make it really technically illegal because now you're asking people to commit a crime.
Yeah.
Besides that, I think people forget that even though you have this First Amendment right to say and do whatever really in this country that we live in that makes you feel good or you feel like you have to share, people forget that there's consequence. It's this little thing that people forget, the consequence of what you say, right? So even if what you're saying is true, even if what you're saying and what you're feeling is honest and you're not trying to be hurtful or hateful, even if you are, there's this, you got to remember just because you're allowed to say the things that you feel and want to say, you are not exempt from consequence of the things that you say and want to say. Your First Amendment right does not protect you from consequence. It does not
Agreed.
protect you from consequence. So if you say something and it's fucked off and you get fired from the job because your boss found out about it, or if you say something and then you get retribution from fans putting where you live and where your parents live and all that, that is consequence on what you said. Is the consequence right or wrong? Doesn't matter. Doesn't fucking matter. That's a consequence of what you expressing your First Amendment right. That's a consequence. So you gotta be mindful of that. Yes, you can say and do as long as you're not hurting anybody else or calling an action not hurt anybody else. You can say and do whatever the fuck you want and how you feel. You want people. You want to let people know how you feel. Fucking scream it from the fucking rooftops. Nobody cares. But somebody will care and you have to deal with that consequence. You are not, your First Amendment right does not protect you from that consequence. And I think people are forgetting that. People are forgetting, well, I have my First Amendment right. I can say what I want to say. They shouldn't fire me. No, they have a right to fire you. That's a consequence. That's their right. If you're working for somebody else and you're representing them in any way, shape, or form, and they don't like what you said, they can fire you and they will. It's happened. That's the consequence of you practicing that right. That right does not
Yeah.
protect.
Yeah.
It does not protect you from consequence. And I think people forget that and they expect it. They expect protection from consequence. And that's not how it works. That's not at all how it works. So, and,
I
and,
100% agree with you.
and me being a
Um,
podcaster and being a
and
firefighter, I have to be mindful of that where I can say whatever I feel and do on my podcasts, right? But I do have to realize that and that's why at the beginning of all my shows, I put a disclaimer out there. You know, what I'm saying and in no way, shape, or form reflects the department I work for, the city, that all opinions and expressions are what makes us fire, what makes us fire only. You know, I have to put that out there because if they hear something and they think that in any way, shape, or form this represents them, they have the full right to discipline me. They have that right,
yeah.
and I can't bitch about it. I can't.
No, it's well, it's I agree with you, and I agree with them, and I like the fact that like I actually might take a leaf out of your book and start doing that for my podcast,
No,
but
it actually it's a CYA. It really is. You do have to be careful because if say somebody you work for, your boss, your employer finds out you have this podcast and you say something that they don't agree with, well, if you're in a right to work state, they can fire you for any reason, man. Like, you gotta
Ohio
cover
is,
your
yeah.
ass. Yeah, you have to cover your ass. You have to make it known that your opinions are yours alone, and you in no way represent anybody else but yourself.
I dig it. I dig it. And, well, and I especially dig what you say coming from like an artist perspective and such because like especially with the Ari thing is like he didn't that's the thing, that what you said is exactly how I felt about it, because he didn't seem to understand that one of the consequences with him being edgy and him popping off at the mouth occasionally is you're going to get some shit that's going to fly back your way from time to time. Like, to put it like in a simpler, my perspective way, like we had an episode where, like, and I'm glad that we did, because they're fucking creepy scam artists, but there's this like social media cult called the Day Life Army, and we put
Never
out
heard
like
of
an
them.
episode. Yeah, they're really creepy, and they're like, they're weird people, and they
Mhm.
it's like everything that you would imagine about like Generation Z, like social media culture, and then like cults, but with like a scam artist vibe mixed in there. It's bad, dude.
Mhm.
So we made fun of them on the pod, and we, I knew that it was probably going to get back to them because they searched the fuck out of their name online. They Google search their name like crazy to see who like talks about them. And lo and behold, guess who's spamming my fucking inbox now?
Oh no. Consequence of free speech, brother. Consequence of free
Uh,
speech.
well, and the good thing is like you could tell that it's like just for rich people, because they're like, yeah, you can join us, and I'm like, okay, and they're like, but you got to Venmo us $50 first, and I'm like, wait, so this is like when this is like dealing with like an OnlyFans account, like what the fuck is going on right now? Like, what is this? Like,
Oh man. Hey, you spoke to this. You kind of just mentioned it. Your art, man. That was actually one of the things that actually drew me to your page. And I think me being a podcast kind of drew you to mine. Me being a podcaster, I think actually you're the first one to follow me, if I remember correctly. But when I saw yours, I was like, holy shit, what is this? What is this guy doing? And then I started seeing some of the art, and I was just like, is he just putting a negative effect on this shit? Like, what the fuck is he doing? And and then I saw some of this more boudoir type art, and then I saw a little bit of I'm huge into the human body, right? The naked human body, whether it be male or female, and if you can make it look um, art, like not pornographic in any way, shape, or form, but it's this, you get this feeling of appreciation for a body, that body. And I saw some of these pictures of your art and stuff, and I was like, man, I really dig this stuff. I really like this. Like this is really cool. This is different. That he's using like your background right now. It's like when I see that, it takes me back to being a kid and having to turn the channels by hand on the TV and coming up to one of those screens, and you get a little
hell
bit of that
yeah.
color, right? You know what else that takes me back to, and this is me being a bad kid, is going to that channel where you're hoping every now and then you see a boob in between the fuzz.
Yeah, brother. Hell yeah.
But
Definitely stopped by that channel quite a bit as a kid.
yeah, and but I saw your art, and I was like, man, dude, this is awesome. I liked what it made me feel. Like I was just like, man, this is cool. And that's when I started, I saw that you messaged me once, and I was like, man, I gotta start talking to this guy. I like what he's doing with this art. And that's when I had this idea. I think I was doing a live, and we were talking. I was like, man, could you do this to one of my pictures? And you did. You collaborated with one of your friends, that psychedelic
Psychedelic boudoir.
yeah, psychedelic boudoir. And I think it's a she. I'm pretty sure it's a she.
Maya, yeah.
Yeah,
Maya's a she. She's cool as fuck.
yeah. And you guys did this awesome badass thing with one of my pictures, and I posted it up on my Instagram because I fucking loved it. I thought it was badass. And I'm hoping you can do a little bit more. But
Oh, for sure, for
I
sure.
I love that art. What got you into that specific type of art, and what would you classify it as, really? Because it it's not textile. It's all computer generated, but it takes a
Mhm.
special person to find those things that work that way on the computer, and how to find those combinations that make that art, right? Not everybody finds the combinations you have found. So how did you
I feel
find
it.
that, and how did you get into that?
So, if you'll allow me to kind of go in, because I've actually never talked about my creative process on the air, I've kind of kept it separate from Junkhead, even though I do all the episode covers and stuff like that.
Well,
Um,
if you don't want this to be part of your Junkhead, you don't.
no. I actually do, because I've had a lot of people ask me, and like I feel comfortable talking about it. I just haven't gotten the chance to. I wanted it to come up naturally, so
Well, here it is.
um, yeah. So to start it off, I'll start with my influences. My influences for art are, just like you said, the glitchy television screens of the 90s from a poor cable box that your
Mhm.
parents hardly paid the bills on. The 3D, yeah, oh yeah. And then the 3D glasses that you would get with like comic books back in the day, where they
Oh
have the
yeah,
red
man.
lens and the blue lens. That's a
Yeah.
big influence. Broken kaleidoscopes, ones that have been like smashed and stuff. You look inside, they look fucking crazy. Um, and it's just like different stuff like that. Like I grew up like liking like Monet and Van Gogh and paintings and stuff like that. But I can't draw for shit. I cannot do it, and I never could really express myself in any kind of like
In a textile
painting.
type of way. It's a textile type of
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
Paint, chalk,
yeah,
pencil, pen, whatever.
exactly. Yeah. So I started like, I think my biggest inspiration for getting into it is I've always been obsessed with album covers,
Okay.
and like ones that look really good and like really aesthetically well like done. And it was about 2 years ago I started like making, cuz I've always made music, and I was like, all right, I wanted to start making my own covers and shit like that. So I started playing around with some photo programs, and then that started getting into, what if I can take, and it's not like, I know that there are people that do this too, but like, what if I can take like my photos and start layering them through different Photoshop applications, and not just Photoshop, but different photo editors. And so that grew the art and started to make it like get crazier. And then I started to, I got a laptop, because originally I was just doing it on like an iPad and my cell phone mostly. Then I
Mm-hmm.
got like a laptop, and I started downloading some like just some random glitch programs off the internet. Just like stuff that like random dudes would build and like six people would download, and it would just like heavily distort an image. That's how like the picture that I have in my background, that's just hitting that thing like a couple of times. That's how you create that. And like it just makes like these weird kind of TV-esque, like broken TV-esque backgrounds. So there's that. Then I started like releasing the Amor Secret the Amor Secret project on my SoundCloud. Check it out, folks. And I started doing the episode covers for that. And that's when I started layering my images even further, which is the beginning of what you see, which is I would take, and I think you probably saw some of them. I would take like a really trippy background and then layer like a really glitched out like photoshopped image of like a Greek statue,
Mm-hmm.
and I started playing with that. And there's a lot of like my page that started like playing with like the statue of David and like all of these old like Greek statues against like these like really heavily distorted backgrounds. Then I met Maya. Maya is different for me. Maya comes from more of a painting background. A lot of the stuff that you do that you see, like the painting style stuff, is her painting on like her laptop. If you were to like describe our skills in like a really like boiled down simple thing, I'm more like a really good editor, like a really good editor, and
Okay.
she's more of like the painter. Now I obviously come up with images and like what how usually like a Maya and I's collaboration works is, the backgrounds of those images.
Mm-hmm.
I usually do the backgrounds, like the really trippy backgrounds, and then she paints the bodies.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then we layer them on top of each other. And then she has a few video editing softwares that she uses as well as I do. And then we both kind of like put those through like our separate video editing softwares, and that's when you get the final product. So by the time it's done, it's ran through like about 10 to 15 different programs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Holy shit. That's a lot of
Oh yeah.
work.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And that's why like the podcast, like I have to give myself a shout out, because not only do I edit and like produce it, perform it, and all that fun stuff, but I also have to build all of those covers, which takes like a lot of work.
Yeah, I just use pictures of me and my guest as the cover. I just I so for me growing and dude, that process is amazing, and thank you for sharing that. And it's cool how you got
Yeah.
into it. You're a musician as well. Where what was it on SoundCloud? What was it again?
So I'll do like a quick plug here. I have a more secret on SoundCloud, and that's like my electronic and hip hop stuff. That's all that.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you want to search, like on my Instagram, I have some examples of like my guitar playing and things like that, and like my post and in like a highlight section. And then if you really want to dive deep, you can go on Bandcamp and you can search Cloud Shroud, CloudShroud, and that is like my like band that I played with in 2017. It's like a 70s rock band, kind of inspired by like Foghat and stuff. I play bass on the tracks.
All right, cool. What the fact that you found this outlet just because you wanted to start producing your own cover art,
Mm-hmm.
and then it just turned into something more than that, it sounds like, with using the images that were already out there. Have you thought about maybe starting to take your own images, maybe your own, like start taking your own pictures and then putting them through your process, and that way they're 100% your own?
100%. I definitely like. I'm trying to get like a friend to take some like pictures of me so I can like get those and run them through my process and like really do that thing. I've also um collaborated with like a few like OnlyFans people and like models and stuff like that who like let me do like some edits on their photos and stuff. Which shout out shout out if anybody on here needs that done. It's a fun job, and like it's hilarious to me because I've I didn't expect this section of my career, or not career, but like the thing that I got into with art, to be like the profitable section of my thing. I thought it would be like music or like comedy, because I was like fucking around with that. But like, I've made more money doing my art in the last 2 years than I have with like music and the other stuff in the last, like, because I'm 30, like 10 years. So like,
Damn. Well, that's a good thing to figure out, right? Because at least it's something you still like doing, and it's not something you
yeah.
have to go to a job every day that you hate to make that. That I appreciate you, now that I know that you actually get paid for doing that. I appreciate you actually doing that one photo for me for free, man. I was actually
Oh,
really
dude,
cool, man.
totally.
Like I the what came from it, and if anybody goes to my Instagram page, you'll see the picture I'm talking about. It's the one, it's the most psychedelic looking fucking picture on my page, because that's what it is. You can't miss it. It's badass. And the what I really liked is like I said, the nude body arts that you and her work together on, and you and Maya work together on, like those to me are just fucking fascinating. I don't know what it is. It's not a it's not a pornographic, it's not a sexy thing. It's not, it's just it's a beautiful thing to me. Like I see that and I'm like, wow, that looks, fuck, that looks amazing. That looks like something you'd go see at that'd be a poster for um a, a boudoir show, or fucking something like that. Like, wow,
Yeah.
like I freaking love it. And the models that you guys are using, or that she uses, are they're just they're beautiful people. They're average beautiful people. And there was one that I saw of hers that I just fucking fell in love with. It's a woman, and she's wearing this sheer top, and you can see through the top and everything, but from the neckline up, it's like woods. You're like looking into the woods, and it's just this. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I fucking love that. I was just like, I don't know what it is. It's like, here you have her being kind of this exposed human, but inside she's nature. Like, it's nature. This is natural. This is a natural thing. It's okay for you to see this right now because it's a natural thing. It's okay that her breasts are showing because it's a natural thing. And that's what I felt from it. And I'm going to get a lot of flack from the guys at the firehouse and everything, because I'm big into the art world, right? I grew up, I used to write all the time. I used to write poetry all the time. I
Oh
wanted to
yeah.
be an actor before anything else. And I fell into the fire service. I fell into this career that I fucking love. It's the best job in the world, and I wouldn't change it. Like, I was meant to do this. But I still have, and I used to teach ballroom dance. I love to dance. I used to teach ballroom dance. So like the
Damn.
waltz, all
No
that other
wonder my
stuff.
man no wonder my man Josh is fucking like doing well. He's got a nice house. He's fucking like my man was a ball and you're
No,
married, right? Like we can
yeah,
say
I
that
am
on the
married. Yeah, I am.
yeah. Yeah, no, like some ladies saw you. He's like got a handsome gentleman here. He knows how to ballroom dance and he's a firefighter, man.
Well,
Like
me and my wife met modeling. We were both models at the time.
oh
So
my God. Are you guys just like beautiful people together? Is that like your guys' vibe?
we get that a lot. We get that a lot. And I'm
Yeah.
not even afraid to say, yeah, we're a damn good looking fucking couple, man. We are a damn
Are
good
you
looking
guys the
couple.
couple that walk into the restaurant and then like you just see like other couples look and just be like,
Yes.
oh
Yeah. And yes, I'm dead serious. Yes. And we'll get the owners, and sometimes coming up to our table, and just our table. Where I am by no means wealthy by any stretch of the imagination. I make do, I provide for my family, and I'm good with it. But when we go into these restaurants and stuff, my wife and I, we like to look good when we go out. And so when we go out, we'll get looks all the time. I'm sure these people think that we just hopped out of a Lamborghini outside or whatever. And it's like, no, no, we hopped out of the Buick. you know, and
Buick's
but
classy though. It's got a
yeah,
vibe.
it's your middle class classy, but it's good. But we yeah we have this art thing. And my wife, she's huge into the art as well. She's a designer, and she designs clothes for herself. We do Texas Renaissance Festival every year, which is the largest Renaissance festival in the nation. But we do that
Oh
every year, and
yeah.
she comes up with the most amazing costumes, and she builds them herself. She creates them herself. They are inspired by other things, but she creates it herself. Like, she went as a gypsy one year, and how she made it is she went to the Goodwill and bought a whole bunch of different fabrics because it was cheaper to do it that way, cut them all up, and she looked like a genuine gypsy. And people were taking her pictures left and right. She was featured on the freaking Texas Renaissance page. Like, she does these amazing things, and
That's
she creates
cool.
them all herself. Me, I'm more on the I mean, I used to do a little bit of music, not all that much, but for me it's the writing part. I loved writing. I love you know poetry and everything like that. A little bit on the guitar and stuff. But when I meet people that inspire a good feeling with their art, when their creativity creates, and it was like I was telling you before we started recording, your art it helped bring me back down. It helped me when I was going fucking insane, right? I'm dealing, and I'm sure you heard me talking about, I'm dealing with a new treatment plan for my depression and anxiety and PTSD. And when I find pages like yours and art like yours that can help bring me back down to earth, and realize the things that I think are beautiful and the things that make me happy. When I see that kind of art, I want to meet the people behind it. and you're that person behind the art that you're doing. You help bring me back down to a reality that helps me remember what makes me happy being alive. And that's and part of that is art. Part of that is poetry. And when I see these things that bring that feeling out in me, I want to meet those people behind it, and I want to get the idea and where it came from. And I want to let artists know that even though you might not have intended for this type of reaction to happen, it happened. It happens. Your art has an impact on people, whether you think so or not. If you just think, oh, I'm just making cover art for whatever, that might be it to you. But when somebody else sees it, it hits something, and it hits somewhere else in their minds and in their hearts that takes them to a good place. And you're part of that. You're the creator of that. And I want to thank you for doing that, even though that might have not been your intention to begin with at all. It's still there. And your art is just like yours and Maya's art are that it does that for me. It takes me, it reminds me of the things that I find beautiful in this life that I do know are worth living for. And I wanted to thank you for that. And I know I told you that before we started recording, but I want to say it now in the podcast that people need to know that it's okay to have this emotion and this expression about other people's art or something that touches you in a way that, nothing else really can. It's just a picture, it's just a painting, it's just a drawing. And sometimes it's more than just that, because it invokes feelings and emotions in people when they see it. And sometimes those feelings and emotions can help save somebody. And it helped your art helped save me, in that it helped me remember the reality that I should be remembering, and not this false reality I had in my head. I know it's pretty
Dude,
deep, and I'm
that's
sorry about that, but
no, 100%. First off, I appreciate that, and like anytime my art has, whether it be the podcast, the music, the page, my art page or whatever, I appreciate getting a deep, heartfelt reaction for it. I at the end of the day, as corny as it is, it's like one of the big reasons that I do it, because I ultimately, I think I ultimately do art to connect with human beings and to be able to, because I struggle with those things as well. I've got my own whole garbage bag full of issues myself, but I think it comes across maybe in the art, and to be able to connect with people like that, is super important to me. Now I'll undercut it with a joke by talking about, I love the fact that it brings you back to reality, because I either get two types of responses from my art. I either get folks like you saying, I have some stuff going on, brings me back down, or people taking some kind of psychedelic drug and heading the opposite direction, not wanting to come anywhere close to reality, and just
yeah.
DMing me mid peaking and just being like, yeah, man, the lizard told me your page was amazing, so I kept looking at it. It's fucking brilliant, dude. And I'm like, what the
I'll tell you what, your art, for somebody that does use shrooms or LSD or anything in that realm, looking at your art it would come alive in a way that I'm sure they're not prepared for. 100%. 100%.
For sure, for sure. I really like it, and I I feel like I keep growing as an artist. Uh, I'm, I know there's definitely going to be some more stuff coming out with Maya and I, um, here in the future, because we're always collaborating, kind of working on some stuff. But I mean, it's it's probably one of my favorite things to do in the world, is to like create something, and then just to get like a good reaction from it. And if there's one thing that this like quarantine showed me, is that as much as I the art helps kind of with like the art therapy and the actual making of the crafts, the connecting with other people is just as important to me. I didn't think that that would like, sometimes I have issues with like kind of being distant in that regard, but like I actually really crave the you know, I don't want to say the positive reaction, but I do, I like it when people, you know, seem to respond and seem to have anything towards my art.
Well, that's not that's I mean that's part of being human, man. Like the thing that makes us human and different from other species on this world is that the human connection we can have with everybody. We can have some type of connection. And part of what makes us feel alive is having that connection. Yes, we need to be okay with ourselves, but you need to have human connection in some way, some form, because if you don't have that, then you're just always lonely, and that's a source of dark thoughts you get in your head. You feel like nobody wants you, stuff like that. And when you have that feeling, it sucks. Human interaction is a part of life. I say we need, it's not necessarily a need to live. However, it's definitely a strong want for us to feel like it's worth continue living.
Yeah.
And and when we realize that, and when we have that, it helps in so many ways and shapes and forms that I don't believe people really understand. So I'm glad I'm able to actually talk to you and actually tell you, you know, in person, quote unquote, or on Zoom, but we're able to, I'm able to actually, you actually hear the words from me. And I actually appreciate you allowing me to do that. When a lot of people are going to be listening to this podcast and be like, well, why is What Makes Us Fire talking to this dirt boyer guy? Why is he talking to Cameron about art? And what does this have anything to do with fire? Well, I'm going to tell you what it has to do with fire. The point of my podcast is to show how diverse the fire and civil service realm is. And that diversity includes people who love and appreciate art, love and appreciate the
and appreciate
differences.
and appreciate folks in civil service and stuff like that too.
Yeah. And we are so different. There are so many different parts of us. I love hunting. I love dancing. I love art. I love appreciating art. I love to write and create it. I love working with my hands and do tools. And, I'm a little bit of everything. I love all these things. All these things make me feel alive. They make me feel like a human. And so when I'm able to talk to somebody that creates an art that I appreciate, they're a part of my life. They're a part of that fire life because they're they're part of that diversity that's within me, right? They I'm not the only firefighter out there that appreciates art as much as I appreciate art. They might appreciate it even more so. They just found being a firefighter for them works is good for them in a career field, right? So so when I find somebody that's an artist, that's a musician, and people are like, well, they're not really in the fire. Well, that's not the point. The point is to show that I'm a human being. We are all human beings, and we can appreciate other human beings for what they contribute to this world. And I'm showing that I'm a firefighter that's appreciating you, Cameron, for the art that you bring into this world. And that's why you're on my show. That's why you're on What Makes Us Fire, because you're part of what makes me a firefighter. You're part of what makes me me. And I am a firefighter. And that's why you're on the show. That's why I want to share your story. That's why I want to share who you are, because there's going to be other firefighters in civil service. They're going to hear this and they're going to be like, Dirt Voyeur, I'm going to go look that fucker up right now. What art is he talking about? There's going to be other civil service people that are going to look for some type of comfort or inspiration or something within your art. And it did that for me. I'm a civil servant. It can do that for other civil servants, just like any other human being, because we're human beings first. And that's part of the reason why you're on my show. A lot of people thought that if you're going to be on my show, you're going to be a firefighter, or you're going to be married to one, or you're going to be, no, it's friends, family, anybody and everybody that affects a firefighter, which is everybody and anybody. So it's okay to have people like you on the show. I don't want people to think that because you're not a firefighter, or you're not a cop, or you're not why is he on the show? No, he's on the show because he affects people, human beings. And some of those human beings and people are firefighters and civil service and cops and EMTs and dispatchers and nurses and doctors and people that dedicate their lives to helping other people. Well, Cameron here is helping other people in his way and his form and on his platform and with what he does. And he's helping people like me and like other firefighters and civil service personnel. So that's why he's on the show. So if anybody wants to come at me with bullshit about why I have him on, fuck off. Like seriously, just fuck off. And know that
And feel free to pound off in my DMs about it too. I'm looking for a good old tongue slang.
good old fashioned keyboard warrior debate. Let's do this. But yeah, man.
Well,
and go for it.
Well, I was just gonna say, I wanted you on Junkhead. One, solid bloke. Go on record with that. I don't care what they say about you down at AA. I think you're a great dude. But no, another thing that I've picked up, and like I kind of got the idea from the live, but also from listening to the pod, and it's great to see it in action. Great broadcaster, man. You do good, man. You're a good broadcaster. You got a great flow in your speech. You got a good rhythm with everything that you do. You're not hitting too many ums and oohs and ahs and stuff like that. You go up and down in your vocal range to where like it sounds you have a skill for this, and it's nice to watch. I mean, I come from like like the man said, like I don't really come from like the fire civil service unit. I come from more the art world, but from the art world, I will give Josh a fucking head nod like crazy. He's a fucking great broadcaster, and these, you know what? It's two great broadcasters coming up here. You got Walter Cronkite, Dan Rather, fucking tearing it up. We're about to, drink scotch and smoke stogies.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, if you listen to my first podcast, that whole thing, I posted my first podcast on August 3rd, right? And I had some guys at the fire station listen to it. And one of the first guys that listened to it, he's a really good friend of mine, Brian Smith. His dad was on the podcast. He went to me and he said, you said like a lot. I was like, did I? And so I went back and listened to it, and I was like, oh no. And so it's actually been this whole process of recording and learning how to say what I want to say without having to stop and go, and then say it. It's been a learning curve for me. And you can tell the difference as you listen to the shows and as they progress. I've tried to minimize those pauses using and those things that we do as humans when we're trying to think of what to say next. It's been a learning curve. I've only been doing this. It'll be 3 months on the 3rd of November. I'll be doing this for 3 months. I have been blessed beyond belief to have over 1,500 downloads and listens already.
Hell yeah, dude.
That's
nice.
Crazy. With only 17 episodes out right now. And at first I was going to do like 2 episodes a week, and then realized fairly quickly finding 2 episodes a week, that amount of guests is pretty fucking hard. And you have to be told no a lot. You will get told no a lot. A lot of people do not feel comfortable getting their face in front of a microphone or in front of a camera and talking about how they feel and who they are.
Dude, for the listeners, like I would compare it to like dating. Like that's the like no level that like, and maybe even like less than dating for Josh because he's like some fucking stud over here. Probably like every girl is just like, oh my god, yeah, I'll say hi. But for the rest of us clowns here, fucking,
Shut up, you
you're
Brandon Boyd looking motherfucker.
gonna fucking but yeah, no, like I've always said like creative relationships are just like, and like starting them and like getting into them are, they're just like dating without the positive benefit of actually getting to fuck somebody from time to time. So like
Yeah,
it's
you know who
tough,
Brandon
folks.
Boyd is, right?
He's lead singer of Incubus, right?
Yes, yes, yeah. That's what I was saying. Brandon Boyd looking motherfucker. Yeah.
I had to think about it. I haven't heard it's been a long time since I've listened to that band.
Nah, man, I
Good
listen to
band
them all
though.
the time. Yeah, I listen to them all the time. They were my first concert, first live concert I ever went to.
Hell yeah.
Them, Matchbox 20, Goo Goo Dolls. That's my music that I grew up with, and a lot of where my poetry is actually um, kind of, I would say, modeled after is a lot of how they write their music and stuff like that. Along with, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but like Jack Johnson, Jason Mraz, like how they write. Some of their music's a little bit poppy and stuff, but how they write their music and how like the quick witted and how they interplay words into their next verse where the word doesn't really go with the next verse but it does go with the next verse, it that to me was just awesome to hear it. So a lot of the times when I listen to music, and I listen to all types of music, I like listening to the lyrics more than anything else. Really, I've found, not just the beat and the rhythm, because the beat and the rhythm can be totally crappy and I'm just not into it. But if I'm hearing the words and how their wordplay is working within the song, that to
Yeah.
me is more interesting. What story are they trying to tell and how are they telling this story? And that's where the whole writing part of me just flourishes and gets so interested into stuff like that. And then that's what got me into wanting to do the podcast is I love sharing information. I love being the person that is willing to ask me a question. I'll let you know what I know. If I'm wrong, I'm okay with being wrong. I'm okay with being wrong. I'm okay with failing. I'm okay. Like, I have taken on that failure is just a chance for me to learn. I'm okay with it. Right. And I knew that my first few podcast episodes could be total bombs. Absolutely. And, but I ended up deciding to not care if they were or not. I will learn from, hence the example with my buddy telling me I said too many times on that first episode. All right, that was a constructive criticism. Let me try to fix it. And I did. And it's become better. My audio editing, holy fuck. I've had no technical audio or video visual editing experience in my entire life. None whatsoever. This whole experience has been new for me, but I'm learning as I go. It's gotten better the last few episodes. I found the right little equilibrium with my audio. Now the shows are actually, the last two shows have actually sounded pretty damn good. And oh, cool. I'm finding that rhythm, and I'm like you. Everything. I'm doing the recording. I'm doing the editing. I'm doing the rendering. I'm doing the pictures and the promotions and everything else. I don't do cover art for every episode, but I I that cover art that you do see, the What Makes Us Fire label, I came up with that. I figured it out.
Yeah.
It's a process and a half, man. I thought it was going to be just hit record, stop record, paste. No, it's not like that at all. It's not like that at all. I found out how hard this is, but it's like a labor of love for me now. How is that for you? How did the podcast come about for you? How did Junkhead come about for you?
Well, I like I think I said at the beginning of the episode, maybe we talked about it before, but I was like kind of going through some stuff in my life, super heavy, and I kind of needed a space to be able to just kind of not be in my head so much, and with stand up completely knocked out, because I'd done stand up for a while, but like I'd just been kind of struggling with it, not really finding my voice in the way that I really wanted to do it. And I'd wanted to do a podcast for a while, but had been kind of sitting on it. And I just was like, kind of like in the middle of a creative streak, if you will, was just like, fuck it, let's just do this. I'm tired of like waiting to do it. And I just, started recording. And I mean, pretty quickly, it kind of helped grow my account like a lot, to the point where like I can almost say that we've had like a huge growth just from like doing the podcast. But it's for me, it's excuse me there.
You're good.
For me, it's a real labor of love that I have now got into such the mode of doing it every week, because we release two, um that I can't even think of a point where like I couldn't, like, it's just become so much of my routine at this point.
I know exactly what you mean.
Now, with that being said, good fucking God, video editing and audio editing is so hard to learn. I wasn't too bad in audio because I had like made my own music before, so I had some familiarity in there. But I
Right.
had nothing with video editing. Nothing. Like the only thing that I have is like when I make like my like glitch edits that are like almost like little like 10 or minute long like clips or whatever,
Right.
or you know what I mean? But that's like a whole different style of editing. You're not syncing audio. You're kind of just like laying an image into something and then just distorting the living hell out of it, really. So like to actually like, okay, I have to sync up the audio with the video and stuff like that. I'm still like learning how to do it. I only have one podcast up as far as video form. That's the Shonda Mortal Demigod podcast, and that's up on YouTube. And I just I just kind of copy pasted that into a video editor. It's
Well,
just like go ahead,
that's kind
bud.
of what I did with my first one as well. When I figured out how to make cuts and everything. And so our podcast has been going for an hour and 15 minutes or so right now. This will probably take me about 3 hours to actually edit just this part, not including recording the intro and outro, and then adding my little bit of intro music and outro music. But other than that, it'll take me about 3 hours. Like if I have an hour of content, add 2 hours for editing, because it's a lot of pausing, stopping, cutting, pasting, making sure it slips into the right spot, making sure that when you did cut, you cut at the right point. And then if you fuck up, you got to undo like 5 times and then go back to the main. Oh, God damn it. And
It's
with the
exhausting.
YouTube, yeah, but for me, with the YouTube stuff, is I don't add anything extra. Like you're gonna see what you're seeing now on the YouTube. It's just another avenue for people to listen to the podcast. They just happen to be able to see our reactions and our movements in our body and how we're talking while they hear the podcast. Really, that's all it is. It's I don't do little pop-ups of what we talk about. Like you're not gonna see me put up a little piece of your artwork up on the YouTube video. That's no, I don't do that.
I
No,
feel it. I feel it.
that's a little bit too much for me.
Man, I'm so glad that I took the background down that I was going to do. That was just me standing in front of the Reichstag.
No, I like the one you got. I like the one you got. It works. My background's just my wall with some fire stuff on it. So, but
I dig it. I dig it.
where are you gonna go from here, man? What are your plans for the future? Where are you? I know you said you're doing a lot of art for people, helping promote themselves in different ways. You mentioned OnlyFans, but I'm sure you're helping people promote themselves in other ways. You helped me by making that one post, and I'm hoping you find or are willing to get more pictures from me. And I'd love for you to do
Yeah.
something else more for on a personal level. But if where do you want to take what you're doing now with your podcast, your art, your music? Where is your goal in the next 5 years? Where are you going to see yourself? Where are you trying to take this? What's your goal and all that?
So I I fortunately know that like this kind of stuff is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Like I I am, and I say that I'm fortunate because I know people that are, in that like kind of, they don't really know what they want to do, or like they're, like confused about things. Like I've known that I've wanted to be in the entertainment field since I was like, I mean, Jesus Christ, I used to fall asleep to like stand up albums at like 10-year-old.
Right.
Like
Okay.
I was like, yeah, like, but I feel bad for my dad because my dad has a great job. He's like a manager of an engineer firm, and like it's cool stuff. They work on airplane engines, and I did not give a shit as a child. Like, he would be like, "Hey, do you want to see the aircraft?" And I'm like, I want to paint or play guitar, or not paint, but like, make music or whatever. So like I just always was very built for this. I started playing violin at 7, so I was fortunate to know that I know that this is exactly what I want to do. So with that being said, I'm always grinding. I'll shout him out. Parker from Atlanta. He's usually on the podcast. He's usually my co-host, but he's having some technical issues with his laptop, so he wasn't able to actually make it on today. But I've joined up with like a comedy team out of Atlanta, and like we make like videos and like work on art and stuff like that. My eventual goal is like I said, I have some stuff that I kind of got to wrap up here in Ohio to kind of take care of. But once all of that fun stuff is done and I can kind of get that shit taken care of, then probably Atlanta to keep growing with the art, work with my team, get better, get more collaborative with like our videos and stuff like that. And then so Junkhead listeners and What Makes Us Fire listeners, I'm also decent at like the business side of the entertainment thing, like especially like marketing and like knowing what demographic works well for your product. And so
Hint
when I
plug.
market, yeah, well, when I market like my podcast to like specific countries, like and specific like areas, and I start marketing like our comedy videos to like specific areas and specific countries, and like I'll tell you, I'll put it to you like this. I put out like on my profile, there's a great video folks can check out where I make fun of Karens. It's a lot of fun. I quite
Fucking
enjoy
hate
it.
Karens.
But oh, fuck Karens. And I did a very specific job of like promoting, because it's a very alternative comedy video that's also kind of hateful. It's my style very much. But
Well,
but
I love the fact that you're doing the comedy thing because I don't know if you know this or not, but firefighters have an extremely dark sense of humor. But it's more of a coping mechanism than anything else, but it's extremely dark. And if you're not used to it, if you're not prepared for it, and you start, me and you start talking more, you're going to start seeing it and hearing it. I'm not being an asshole. It's just what I find funny. So, and
I
so
appreciate.
yeah. So like, like the dead baby jokes I'm good with, all those kind of things, dead babies are not funny, but joking about them, hilarious. It's just yeah, exactly. So I mean, like firefighters have this really dark sense of humor, and so I actually can't wait to listen to a little bit of what you got going on because I want to see if it falls in line with what I'm good with. Like man, I love dark humor. Dark humor is yeah, I'm down with it. I'm down with it, 110%.
Check out that video, and then there's definitely some videos on my Junkhead Pod Instagram page that you folks can check out. But long story short of what I was saying, I found out that like my style popped off pretty well in America. It does okay,
Mm-hmm.
but it like did really well in England. Like, and makes a lot of sense because I'm like my favorite thing as a kid was Monty Python, and I'm like
Right.
heavily inspired by a lot of English humor. So the goal is like maybe by the end of that 5 year mark to save enough money to where I can like move to England and be like, okay, now let's see how I do in like the environment that like I've been marketing well in.
It's funny that you say England because so on I don't know what podcast hosting site you use. I use Buzzsprout. They've been great. They have a whole bunch of different tools that help you promote and market. But a lot of my downloads, obviously the number one is United States, number two is Canada, number three is the UK, number four is Australia, and then number five is Ireland. That's where most of my downloads are coming from, the top five. And
Hell
the
yeah.
UK has been crazy. They have been crazy supportive of this podcast, of this platform, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook. I'm getting a lot on Facebook. I'm getting a lot of, you know, Spanish European countries, and then on Instagram, I'm getting a lot of UK. On TikTok, it's more American and some UK. But it's crazy that I'm reaching people from literally halfway around the world. Tomorrow, uh, I have an episode airing with a gentleman named Benji, and he's from South Australia. He found out about the
Hell yeah.
podcast from South Australia. They're 10 and a half hour time difference. He's in a different day right now. Like what I had no idea that it would be reaching that far. And it is. And people are listening and they're liking the content and they're reaching out, and it's an amazing feeling that something that you're working so hard on and creating to share with people, not only for yourself, but for them, you're sharing for them as well. And you're reaching them. You're actually doing it. You're actually reaching them. People from across the world are listening to you and what you have to say. They're listening to your guests. They're learning. They're reaching out. They're wanting to talk to you. They're wanting to learn. You're wanting to learn from them. They're wanting to share. It's crazy the connection you're making with people in general, not just around the world, but people in general. And man, I say fucking go for it. Fucking go for it. You're making a
Appreciate it.
difference now. You can only go up from here, and I appreciate you coming on to my show. And doing a dual cast is actually kind of crazy. This is the first one I'm done as well, where I'm on your show on Junkhead Pod, and you're on my show, What Makes Us Fire. And we're sharing these ideas and our experiences, and basically, really, we're sharing our own personal lives, which are completely different, really, but there's a similarity in that we have this want to share and make people feel better with what we're sharing. And it's just so cool to meet other people, even though they're in a different realm of what I do, but we're still in the same realm of wanting to share to help people in a way, in different ways, but the idea is the same, of wanting to help people and share our ideas to help people, to make them feel better, whatever the case may be. And you're doing a great job. You've made an impact on me without even meeting me. Before I even said hi, you've made an impact just by sharing what you create. And I appreciate that. And I thank you. I hope that, me doing the lives and you listening to some of the pod, I hope it helps you in some way, some way, somehow. I'm sure you're learning something about the fire service you might have not known. I'm putting a different idea in your head about civil service people, cops, fire, EMS, all of the above, because we all have the kind of same mindset. But I am actually, and the reason why I say all this is that I actually need to start kind of closing this up. I don't know where you're at with your show. We can keep going if we need to, but if you're good with start
No,
closing up.
that's actually like totally cool as far as for the junkhead side of things. I appreciate, I said it on the live, and I know it's a corny thing to say, but I say it to, every civil service person that I meet, that I appreciate your service and that, you're valuable. And I I love having an audience, but I love like finding out that like people in the civil service enjoy my work because I've had family, like most of my family was in that field to some degree. So I understand, the ability to turn off the day's events and just be yourself again is a fucking task and a half. So to be able to like actually contribute to help somebody kind of unwind and become themselves again and not just be, the man or the woman in uniform is a really powerful thing to me. I didn't think that Junkhead could do that, but to know that I can, is definitely a boost in confidence. That's something that can gas me up for a while, and I appreciate that. Um, with that being said, do you want to do your little closeout first, or do you want me to do mine?
Well, so before I close out, I usually close out with three questions when I come kind of
Oh,
when I
okay,
start
okay.
wrapping up. Now the first question is kind of twofold, but the three questions can either spark another 10-15 minute conversation or it can just be answered and we'll be done. No big deal either way. There's no right or wrong answer. But the way I usually start by closing off my show is my first question to you is obviously you have a podcast, right? It's Junkhead Pod, Junkhead Pod. Let me make sure I say that correctly. But if you were interviewing yourself, you had yourself on as a guest, is there something that you would want the audience to know, my audience to know, that I didn't ask you or something that you weren't able to share?
Let's see here. If I was interviewing myself,
What question would you have asked yourself that I may have not?
not really a question, but in these trying political times, I think it's fun to mention that I did run for governor of Ohio.
Did you?
Yeah.
Dude, no way. You did.
Yeah, it
You were
was.
one of those extra names on the ballot.
Yes, yes, I was. Yes, I was.
Oh,
I
wow,
served
dude. That's
nothing, no more
awesome.
purpose than a nuisance. Like,
Dude, that's awesome, man. That is so cool. You're like another what was that? Joe Joe Exotic. You're like another Joe Exotic.
pretty much, pretty
You
much.
just put your name in there.
Dude, it was like part of like a comedy skit, but we like did it for real because I had a friend. He was like a guy who went to like school for like kind of government work. Really, he was like his whole thing was he wanted to be a politician, so he took like classes that taught you how to like fill in forms for the government. I don't know, it was weird, but like he filled out all the paperwork, and like in Ohio, it's you have to be 18. I think it's 18 in order to like run for governor. So
Uh-huh.
we filled out all the paperwork, and like we we were for the Florist Man Party, which is you have the Neanderthals, and then the Florist Man is like the ape before that. So we were like trying to convince to go people like even before the Neanderthal times. It was wild. We had our own posters and everything.
Wow, that's awesome, man. That's badass. But see, that's just another art form and expression, really. By doing something like that, you're showing comedy. You're putting out some type of funny thing, but you're doing it in a real serious, putting quotation marks up, serious situation in politics. We all know it's all fucking politics is politics. We won't get into that, but
Politics is shitty.
yeah, on both sides, all shitty.
For real, bro, for
But
real.
yeah, it's so awesome that you did that, man. That is fucking sweet. I wish you should have made like a promo video for it or something. That would have been awesome to see. just just see some ape walking around, be like, "This is what we want."
Dude, well, and it was in like very much like 2010 meme format, so we would just find all of these like scientific drawings of the Florist Man and then put like the like black text with white text layered like meme font over top of it of like vote Florist Man, we don't want to participate in the future and shit like that.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. You're gonna have to send me one of those if you still have them. I got to see that. That's freaking awesome.
For
Uh,
sure, dude. If I can find it, I'll send it your way.
Hell yeah. My second to last question, is basically asking you, is there anything that you want to ask me that I didn't share, or anything that you haven't been able to ask? I'm an open book. I'll let you know whatever. And if I can't answer it, I'll be respectful in the fact and saying, fuck off, I can't answer
I
it.
feel it. I feel it, brother. Um, I not even a question, but I'm just gonna come out on the pod and say it. You got some mad Ernest Hemingway vibes, my man, and it's pretty fucking cool. Like you have like the like masculine energy that he had, but then he would like write, and then he like also did that stuff, but then he would like also like he like because like Hemingway was weird because he was like super cultured and he loved like dancing and I think he liked poetry and shit like that. But then he would
Yeah.
also go hunt and kill a bear.
Yeah. Yeah. Holy fuck. That's like one of the greatest compliments I think I have ever received. Ever.
Mad
Dude,
Ernest Hemingway vibes, my dude.
brother, thank you. That actually means something to me. Like, thank you. I
Yeah,
don't
of
I
course,
don't
dude.
take that as a bullshit anything. That's probably one of the best compliments I think I've ever heard in my life. Uh and that's without you actually ever reading anything I've written. But I appreciate
Just
that,
on
man.
vibe
Thank you.
alone.
Just on vibe alone, man. Damn. Yeah, you made me feel all warm and gooey inside. I'm gonna give you a hug.
Usually I have to pay $50 for that type of thing.
I'm not gay, but $50 is $50. uh,
Dude, I got like it's so funny because like I random side thought, but I used to work in like Army Navy surplus, and we'd also set up like a lot of the guys in like the local police force and like fire department and like gear shit like that, just random shit. But I just like firemen especially like you guys are the gayest straight dudes that I've ever met in my life, and it's so because you're not like not
oh
saying I
my
don't not saying like
god.
all firefighters like maybe there's probably a gay one or something like that, but
No,
like
there's a whole bunch. There's actually, I got a Dallas. If you listen to my podcast, Dallas, the badass firefighters, he's actually a gay fireman in the department I work for. I actually had his husband on the podcast as well. He's actually our union president as well. Like, but when you see this picture of him, when you see the picture of him, and if you go to YouTube and watch the episode, you're like, "There's no way he's gay. There's no way. There's no fucking way." But no, that dude's gay, way gay. And
I was gonna
but
say I was about to ask if he like hung out with like a cop and like a construction worker and like a little group like the
and an Indian. No, uh, no, he doesn't. But you would have no idea. But the thing with about that episode, real quick, about that episode is that you learn that that lifestyle that he has is not who he is. It's just a part of who he is. That's all it is. And a person who decides to love whoever they want to love does not make them any less than anything else. And that's really what we kind of talk. We talk a little bit of the politics of the fire department. Fire department is really political, but we do spend a lot of time on him coming out as a gay man, not only to his family but to his fire family as well. And it's actually really cool listening to. So strongly recommend listening to it. But yes,
oh, check
we
that
are.
out.
Yeah, we I would agree with you. We are probably the gayest straight civil service out there. We will win in gay chicken every day with anybody. We will.
Yeah.
We have no fear. None. None. We will win in gay
No,
chicken. And anybody that doesn't know what gay chicken is when two guys put their hands on each other's knees and they move up just a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And you ask, "Are you chicken? Are you chicken? Are you chicken?" First person to chicken out before the other man grabs the other man's crotch is the loser. But nobody ever says I'm chicken. We're just like, hey, you're just gonna end up. Now it's just to see who can hold each other's cocks the longest. but but
that
that's the
is
kind of
so
bullshit that
good,
we
man.
do, right? I mean, cops do it all the time, but cops do it all the time, but they just do it in their car when nobody's looking.
They're quieter about it. I see. I see.
Right. We don't care
That's
who's watching.
awesome.
Yeah. Um, Now that we're done on that little tirade, uh, my last question, brother, on the end of my show, the last question I ask is the podcast is called "What Makes Us Fire." You're not a firefighter, but you're a part of this family, and you're a part of this family because you make a difference in civil service people's lives. My life. You're a friend of mine now. I consider you a friend, so you're part of the fire family. But my question to you would be, what do you think it is that makes civil service personnel, firefighters, whatever, what is it what is it that you think it is makes them fire?
Like the traits that would like makes them a
What do you
firefighter.
think it is that makes a person do this job? Firefighter, civil service, cop, EMT, somebody that is devoting their lives and sacrificing of themselves for people.
Oh.
What do you think it is that makes people fire, that makes us fire?
Well, I'll answer your question with a little information about, because I said it earlier in the pod about like a lot of my family doing a lot of civil service. A lot of it's on the cop side. My great grandfather was a police officer in my hometown. My stepdad's grandfather, who would be like my step great grandfather or whatever, he was a police officer in the hometown that they grew up in. He actually won the Carnegie Award.
Oh, wow.
For he lived Yeah, he lived up in Michigan, and there was a factory that exploded, and there was like a massive fire that broke out. He went in, saved three guys, and got them out of the building before they, were taken from this earth. So uh, you've got to have, just from knowing, because I never got to met him, but just from stories and like, because like my uncle's a corrections officer. Um, you've got to have bravery. You have to to walk into a scary situation with a bad guy with a gun, to walk into a big burning building, to walk, into a life or death situation where the person's hand is in your lives. You have to have like some kind of courageous nature, some kind of brave nature, because for most people, I think that they do have good instincts, but the instinct to want to save another person isn't as prevalent in other people as it is in the folks that commit themselves to it. And I'm sure you probably see people who, in our arts world, we like to call them tourists, and people who like to pretend, that they're that. And then, pretty quickly, those people start get weeding out, because when the real passion comes and you really got to put your life on the line, not saying we do that, but you guys do that,
We call that when the
it's,
shit hits the fan.
yeah, yeah. Like when the shit hits the fan, the men are going to show up, and I mean that, the men and the women, the real folks. So, in a base gene of bravery, with like a side little backbone of courage. And then, because like I said, I've worked in Army Navy surplus for a number of years, so I got to hang out with dudes from every branch, every civil service. Just a dash of crazy. Just a dash, not a ton, but just a
Oh
dash.
man, yeah.
And that's what makes y'all lovable. That's what makes you great. You're our boys. You guys go up there and you do your thing. You're fucking nuts, and we got to have your back because you're the ones doing a thing for us. That's the contract that I see between you and I, is like me being a non-civil servant and you being a civil servant, is like, I gotta have your back. I mean, if you do something bad, that's one thing, but like, you're not doing anything bad, so I gotta have your back.
Man, and I love that you said that. I love that you made the point in saying as long as I'm not doing anything bad. Because it seems like lately the the few that are doing something bad are they're the ones that are defining the mass, and that's not actually the definition of the mass. The
It's
mass
true.
are those good people. The mass are those ones that give a shit and that really care. Those are the ones that need to be heard. Don't let the minority situations dictate and define the masses, because that is not who we are and who we dedicated ourselves to be. It's that old saying, there's bad
100%.
apples in every bunch. It goes with every walk of life, including civil service. But don't let that bad apple define the bunch. It doesn't work that way. We're not going to let one bad artist dictate that all artists are bad. It just doesn't work that way. So why do we do that with civil service? We need to
100%.
stop doing that. We don't do it with
Yeah,
anything else in life. But for some reason, there's this expectation that we have to be above human. And it doesn't work that way. We're human. So I
for
appreciate you
real.
saying that, man. And I thank you for having that sentiment.
Dude, straight up, like, I mean, and maybe I'm more perceptive of it. Maybe I actually look, but like I look in like your guys and your ladies' eyes, and you're fighting a fucking battle right now, and you're kind of getting thrown into things that you're not really a part of, and you're being treated like you're one thing when in reality, you know, a lot of you, I know, I because I worked with you for a couple of years at that Army surplus store. I met all different types, and along with like dealing with my family and being around and that, I know most of you are there 15 minutes early. I know most of you are leaving 30 minutes after the scheduled time. I know most of you are picking up a shift, you know, because somebody needs it and you don't even fucking think twice about it. And that stuff needs to come to light, because that is the American civil serviceman or civil service woman. And those are the true icons of this country. They will outlast anything far beyond somebody who's just a TikTok influencer. And they will be the backbone that, you know, given the current situation that we're going to be in, that we need to kind of persevere through what we're going through right now. If we lose faith in this completely, it's done. The game's over. The fat lady sing. You can add whatever fucking thing on it. But I don't know. I was just raised, you know, these people are putting their fucking lives on the line, and you know, you gotta have their back, man. You don't you don't know what they're going through and what they got to fight, and to let one asshole just be the poster boy for legions of men and women who put their lives on the line for folks who can be a little ungrateful for it is just something that I never wanted to do.
Man, thank you so much. Thank you. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
For sure.
Well, with all that being said, ending it on a very somber, badass note from Cameron, Mr. Dirt Boyer of Instagram, and your host of Junkhead Pod. I want to say thank you from What Makes Us Fire Family. I want to say thank you for coming on the show, brother. Uh, it's been amazing talking to you, man. We have to do this again, and I want to get your co-host on as well, because I think we'd be able to have a good time. And again, I want to say thank you for what you're doing as a human being, putting your art out there, putting yourself out there, sharing it, because there's a bunch of people that do art that don't share it or too scared. You're doing it. You're putting it out there. You're making a difference. You're putting feelings into people with what you're doing. Continue what you're doing, man. Continue sharing your word. Continue sharing your ideas. You're, you you make a difference in this world, and it's a badass thing. And I love you for it, man. I appreciate you reaching out. I appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate you, and I thank you for allowing me to be on your show as well on this dual podcast. And I hope that I have been a gracious guest, and I hope that I have been a gracious host, which is weird to say because we're doing a dual thing and I'm both.
I feel
So
it. I feel it. Is there is there a specific like closeout line that you do? Because I kind of have like a closeout like little
I do
thing.
have one, but first, before we leave, brother, where again can everyone find you, and where can they follow you, and where can they listen,
Oh,
all that fun
plug
stuff?
time.
Yeah,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna give you folks a whole bunch of them. Feel free to check out anything that you like. Any and all of it would be appreciated. So you've got my personal page on Instagram. That's Dirt Voyeur, DIRTVOYEUR. And then I have my art page where I do like all of my edits and such for my photos and such. That is digital underscore Kintsugi. That's KINTSUGI. And then if you want to check out Junkhead Pod on Instagram, that's Junkhead underscore pod. That's on Instagram too. And then finally, there's obviously Junkhead Pod on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, pretty much anywhere. And then a more secret AMOURSECRET on SoundCloud for my music and stuff. So you got a whole bunch of stuff there, folks. Go check it out. Let me know what you think. I'm curious, especially if, like I said, if you're civil service, let me know how my art makes you feel.
man, hell yeah, hell yeah. You have anything else you need to ask me or anything like that, or are you ready for the closeout lines?
I'm good to go.
Awesome. All right. What makes us fire family? This was Cameron, the Dirt Voyeur. I've been saying it wrong apparently this whole entire time, calling him Dirt Voyeur. I've been pronouncing it incorrectly.
Honestly, I probably might be mispronouncing it, so you're good, my dude. You're good.
Okay. Cameron Dirt Voyeur, host of Junkhead Podcast. Go check him out on Instagram. He gave you all the links. Go check him out. You guys, thank you so much for joining us. Get out there, stay safe, have fun, and remember to show some peace out in the world. We never know what somebody might be going through. All right. All right, Cameron, what you got?
All right. So I usually just do like a short outro, no longer than like a minute or two. It probably won't make any sense, but I usually try to make it as funny as possible.
Go for it. Do you need me on to do it, or do you record it separately?
No, I usually, because sometimes I usually get some laughs from the other person on the pod.
All right, let's do this. See if you can make me laugh. Let's do this.
For sure.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah. All right there, folks. We're coming up on the dusty trail of another podcast. Look out over the pasture there. Let's see, the buffaloes still running around. This is before the Sioux Indian dame come down and took them out. It's about Buffalo Bill in the 1830s. Of course, my wife tried to have sex with him.
What?
That's what happens. That's what happens. He pulled his rifle out. I thought he meant his gun, literally. Last time I leave her with him. I see a bald eagle flying in the distance. Of course, he gets closer to me. I realize he's got face tattoos and he looks like Post Malone. The hell's happened to this goddamn country? I swear to God, in one valley, it's like 200 years meshed together. If I see Al Capone come into this place, I'm going to shit myself. But on that note, folks, Junkhead is out.
All right, guys. Like I said, that was Cameron. He was definitely a character. He was definitely a badass dude to talk to. I greatly appreciate him coming on the show, and I greatly appreciate him having me as a guest on his show, Junkhead Pod, while we were both recording the same thing. Guys, get out there and follow him. Show him some support. He's a great guy. He's just an artist trying to share his vision with people, and he's making a difference whether he likes to think so or not. I want to ask you guys, please continue to like, comment, and share the What Makes Us Fire podcast. Please follow us on all the social media platforms with the tag @WhatMakesUsFire. on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and now you can also follow me on Snapchat with What Makes Us Fire. You could also follow us on the YouTube channel, What Makes Us Fire, one word, space podcast, where you can see the faces behind the voices and kind of watch us and how we're interacting with each other as we're talking. It's fun. You'll see the laughs, the funny faces, and all that great stuff. And also, I'm asking you guys, please leave reviews on any and all the platforms that you use to listen to the podcast, on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the ones that you see. I greatly appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening. Please stay tuned for the next episode that will be coming out shortly. You are very much loved. I love the support. Look out for the live videos that I do on Instagram and on Facebook, and hopefully soon we'll be able to do on TikTok. Just need 100 more followers on TikTok, and we'll be able to do live videos there as well. So please continue to share, continue to like, all of the above. I love you guys. Get out there, have fun, stay safe, and remember, like I said before, let's show some peace, because we never know exactly what somebody might be going through. All right? Much love.